Integrity is the rock upon which this company is built. The integrity of our personal relationships, the integrity of our products, the integrity of our compliance with law and ethics.
We are part of a global company that has to be driven by global rules.
We measure people both on meeting the numbers as well as how they do it.
It's simple. It's about respecting the law in every country that we're in.
Integrity is the most important value because it is kind of like a universal force that holds everything together.
If we don't have integrity in the sense of compliance with law and ethics, we cannot be a great global company in this era.
No company is more global than GE. No company more admired for its worldwide success. But with businesses in more than 100 countries comes the challenge of crafting a common culture.
Voici donc les règles.
What binds hundreds of thousands of GE employees together is a shared commitment to integrity. The basics are simple. Obey the law, respect your fellow employees, and abide by the spirit and the letter of GE's integrity policies. Now, a candid look at some of these policies, how they are followed at GE, and how costly it can be when they are not. It was the mid-1980s, and GE's Aircraft Engines Division agreed to supply the Israeli Air Force with F-110 engines. It was a relatively small deal that would have enormous consequences for everyone at GE.
It was a life-changing event for me, I think, as it was for a lot of people.
In the coming years, GE's senior marketing manager, known to his colleagues as Mr. Israel, handled the account personally, picking vendors and approving payments, bypassing the usual channels.
He would intimidate people within GE to get them to do whatever he wanted, in the threat that if they didn't do it, he would cause them to lose their jobs.
So people went along. A multi-million-dollar test cell like this one was part of the contract.
We had billed the government of Israel for a complete test cell that was supposedly completely done, and we didn't even break ground.
In 1990, GE made a stunning discovery that this man, Israeli Air Force General Rami Dotan, and GE's marketing manager were crooks. They had diverted $11 million into Swiss bank accounts.
It turns out one of the major vendors that we were using in the Israeli case wasn't even a vendor at all. It happened to be a friend of our marketing executives who had a fax machine in his bedroom, and we were submitting hundreds of thousands of dollars of purchase orders to this guy.
GE launched an investigation.
The company's actions included prompt disclosure to the Department of Defense and the Department of Justice.
How, everyone wondered, had the fraud gone on so long?
Some people sensed that something was wrong and said to themselves, well, if the customer wants it, it's okay.
Something that should have been a red flag. GE had never spent any money building the test cell it had billed for.
And the guy who keeps those records either didn't check those records or checked them and didn't pay attention to them, but he signed off on an invoice for a $4 million job that had never even been started.
If others had concerns, they did not push back when they were ignored.
We had a document with about 12 or 13 signatures on it, and the second person signed it because the first person signed it, and the third person signed it because the second person signed it. By the time we got to the end of it, the person signed it because someone else signed it as opposed to doing any independent verification.
The marketing executive was fired and eventually convicted of federal crimes, but 20 other people lost their jobs too.
People who we all knew and trusted had worked together for years suddenly were no longer there. So it was like a loss of your family.
Those people were fired or demoted, their careers derailed because of what they did not do.
People in the business knew that there were irregularities, questions being raised, red flags flapping in the wind, and they didn't come forward.
It's at that moment when you're tested, in a sense, under fire, that you have to be prepared to sort of put up a caution and say, let me make sure that what we're doing here is right.
Remember, it's one of the most basic requirements of any job at GE. Maintain complete, accurate, and timely records.
If you're going to put your signature on a document, you've got to make sure you know what you're signing for.
Settlement in an Ohio courtroom today. General Electric pleading guilty to various criminal charges.
What made the scandal worse, American military aid to Israel was paying for the aircraft engines. U.S. laws had been broken, and Congress demanded answers.
Today, I'm not here to give excuses for an event I regret. There are none.
Another policy ignored, working with governments. Be truthful and accurate when dealing with government officials and agencies.
There's a lot more that you have to do to comply with customer requirements when the U.S. government's involved.
It's not just the U.S. government that has special requirements, as Yokogawa Medical Systems in Japan found out in the early 1990s. Yokogawa, then a joint venture with GE, was aggressively selling MRIs and CAT scans to government-owned medical schools and hospitals. And customers were being offered trips to the U.S. to see the equipment in action.
In reality, we were encouraged by our bosses to spend a lot of money on it.
Paying travel expenses was a standard business practice, but in February 1991, prosecutors were at Yokogawa searching for evidence of bribery of government officials. What had gone wrong?
Actual cash reimbursement in the form of a traveler's check went to the individual's pockets rather than going back to the organization.
Cash also went for expensive dinners and golf outings, not only for professors, but also their relatives. Doctors and professors at 2 public universities were arrested. So were 5 Yokogawa salesmen, including this one.
I was really shocked by it.
And he was really worried about his future.
What will happen to my family? Will my younger sister be able to get married? What will happen to me?
He was innocent, but the other salesmen were convicted. Their mistake, improper payments were made. The policy requires that you never give or offer anything of value to obtain any improper advantage. In the wake of the scandal, customers canceled their orders.
We lost about $90 million of orders. That's almost half of our annual order amounts at that time.
Today, the rules at Yokogawa and around the world are more stringent. The message crystal clear.
Compliance and integrity is the paramount important issue for us.
People do business with us because of our reputation. Our reputation's based on our value system, and at the heart of that value system is integrity.
With the GE Financial Network and
In this information age, with more and more business being done online, there are new compliance issues. Privacy is one.
And the date of birth, please.
At GE Capital Global Consumer Finance, an enormous amount of personal data about customers is collected in order to issue credit cards and make loans.
Can I have the account number?
The company must be very careful what it does with the information it collects.
Sorry, but under the Data Protection Act, we can only actually speak to the person who signed the credit agreements.
GE has committed itself to protecting personal information about individual consumers.
For us in financial services, the use of consumer information is extremely valuable as a marketing tool. We make absolutely sure that we tell our consumers how we're going to use their information. And we give consumers the right to opt out if they don't want us to use the information for marketing purposes.
It's essential for employees to comply with the law, even if it's not the fastest way to get things done. In Mexico, for instance, some plant inspectors offer a shortcut.
They come to